Edyta.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Analytic and Tribal Impact's Social Advocacy Content Series. We're delighted to be joined by Edyta from SAP in our third interview of this series, and we're on LinkedIn Live, so all very exciting, and it's our first time.
I know.
Exciting, absolutely.
I keep saying, what could go wrong?
Nothing.
A lot could go wrong. I will have children coming in a minute. I'm just going to be like that BBC presenter.
Yeah.
So we're very excited to hear all about your social media presence, Edyta. This is an advocacy series focused on employees who are influential on social and help to motivate others within their companies to be good social practitioners. And so, please feel free to introduce yourself, Edyta, and tell everyone where they can find you online.
Sure. Thank you very much, Tim and Sarah. I'm absolutely thrilled to be with you and honored, I would say as well. I've reached an apogee of my career, if I can say so, where I can be found mostly professionally on Twitter and on LinkedIn. Of course, I am as well on Facebook with my friends, on Instagram, on Pinterest, and I would like to also see how can I get on TokTok following my daughter. I think we say TokTok. So yeah, trying to expand my footprint, but being seriously professionally, LinkedIn and Twitter are my two key media channels. Very quickly, my background, quite dated now, marketeer, many years in marketing. I started.
It doesn't show, Edyta.
No,
oh, that's good.
What's
That's
your
very,
secret?
very good. I started in FMCG actually as a consumer marketeer. Then 2016, I went into technology. I joined Cisco, and since 2016, I am with SAP. And just as a little anecdote, I'm here joining you from Warsaw because since January this year, I've taken a leadership role in Central and Eastern Europe. So I've relocated for career promotion. That's me.
Amazing. And I've known you for a while, haven't I, Edyta? Because I work with you at SAP, which is lovely.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us today. And the reason I thought you'd be quite a good person to talk to about this, because whenever we worked together, you just felt social was part of your job. So,
Yes.
And I think as a marketer, quite often, sometimes we can get a little bit like, oh, we'll help other people be social, we'll manage the brand channels, but we don't like being out there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a marketer that has done that, which fascinates me.
Mm-hmm.
And I always remember you telling me about your background in FMCG and how it made you think like a customer and stuff. So can you give me, just as a quick starter, like what motivated you to get going on social in a professional way?
I would say probably a number of different things, maybe 2 or 3 in particular. First of all, I think it's the visibility for the brand I represent, and also personal visibility for myself, for Edyta visibility. That's I think number 1. Number 2, I think once you get going, it actually is quite fascinating to get engagement from your audience. So it's almost like you really live through what you preach. And the more I experiment with my posts and the more I obviously increase my network, actually the more response from people outside of my network I experience. Like, I will give you an anecdotal experience. Example. I love posting about startups because for me it's part of the story about the innovation. And a month or 2 months ago, I put a post up there about startups, and I received few emails from a CEO from these startups, which I found was fascinating. So you've got this personal engagement. And I would say probably a 3 key reason is, for me, I see this as part of my job. And if I go to my sales teams, my sales colleagues, and I tell them about the fact that digital engagement today is key, in a way how we should engage our customers, and it is, then I need to show them the examples. I need to show them I can walk the talk. Essentially, I need to be a role model for that. And I think that is probably the biggest motivator. For me, it's part of my role. End of.
I love that.
I think that's fantastic. So you meet a lot of marketing and comms people that, like Sarah said, enable so many other people, and then when the campaigns go live or lots of content, you don't see them participating and engaging in the content, and they're the ones that should be so proud. But a lot of them think, well, it's not my job, and actually, I want to give the kudos to other people. So some of them are quite shy and modest about it, but equally, you're showing the leadership that if you can do it, other people can do it. So I think that's an interesting your balance, and you've obviously taken that route of leading, which is fantastic.
I think that's an easy question. I think actually, though, Tim, I think where it gets a bit tricky is in marketing. You're not in a sales role, so you probably don't get your subjects. It's the topics, isn't it? And I guess, for example, a marketer might think, well, to be honest, I can't answer questions about cloud migrations and ERP, and so where does the line go with the topics? And so how do you manage that then? Because Edyta, you're a marketer in that space, but you're not a pre-sales consultant that's a specialist in retail ERP, for example. So where's the line?
I think I have a quite easy answer to it, and that is our customers and SAP customers actually need a business message. They are getting technology message indeed from our pre-sales. Where we need to go as a company, and that's very clear for us also strategically, is that we want to be seen as a brand who represent a partnership to our customers, a business partnership. And you will know that, and I know that any technology transformation actually starts with the business. It's not the other way around. So for me, when it comes to my key topics that I want to use on social media, I have my little own Edyta strategy, which I'm very happy to tell you about what it looks like.
Do tell.
So for me, it's sort of SAP as a brand and what I can do for SAP as an SAP employee, and then Edyta with my own personal stories. And I think the two actually can go very nicely together. And when they fuse, actually, what the audience are getting is quite nice and personal message. So let's look at SAP messaging. And I promise I'm not going to be doing any pitching here. It's very simple. SAP, it's a brand that sells software solutions, and we want to improve business processes. For me, the key things that also interest me personally here is business transformation, because I used to work for Procter & Gamble, so I know a little bit as well how it works. Business transformation, innovation, digital transformation, purpose. One of the beautiful narratives for SAP that we try to position in the market is the fact that we want our technology to improve the lives. So the purpose story is very powerful. Yeah. These are my key narratives that I will focus on, and I will find different ways, and we can talk about it later. How do I do that to push the stories, from me, Edyta, on behalf of my brand of SAP? But I will fuse in there as well my own personal stories around marketing, which I'm passionate about, around the fact that, I love working with my sales colleagues. And Sarah, you will know that because we talk a lot about that. I am a keen advocate to elevate marketing in organization, especially in B2B, as a business partner to sales, to other functions. I love to talk about that in post. So here you go. In terms of the topics, I try to merge the two. And what is quite interesting, I've observed in terms of the effectiveness of these messages, they are actually more effective when they're personal. When you drop that strong corporate narrative and you bring a little bit of a personal angle, and that's what I'm trying to, that's a little bit my approach, how I try to do it.
Yeah, I was going to ask on the, and please feel free if you're watching to drop questions in the comments, and we'll answer them live for you. But what have been your most successful personal or business posts?
You know, I wouldn't say there was one or two. Now, what is quite interesting, I don't know whether you have the same observations or the audience have the same observations, but when the whole social media, or when I started to experiment a few years ago, I could reach very easily, 200 likes, which for me was quite big, or more. I think it's harder these days. I think there is more, it's getting crowded, that space. So it is the number of likes for me, it's decreasing. But what is quite interesting is also who do I see is, for me, it's important who is responding to me. And this is where I have my personal success stories. So I've given you the example of a startup post, which was then retweeted and actually reposted because it was on LinkedIn. Another day, I posted something on L'Oreal and I tagged Lubomira Roche, who is a very, very well-known chief digital officer for L'Oreal. And she liked my post. Thank you very much, Lubomira. and it wasn't a hugely, big post, but to get a like from Lubomira, I enjoyed that very much. Or again, a few days ago, I actually posted something from SAP, one of our Sapphire episodes, which was hosted by Mark Jeffries, who is a very well-known host for events and keynote speaker. And he responded to me with a thank you. Thank you very much, Mark Jeffrey. So for me, it's not necessarily the volume of likes. It's also how people are responding to me, the notes they drop me, or sometimes the feedback from my sales team as well, who will tell me, Edyta, such and such customer liked your post, or and I'm engaged with them on a deal. That for me, it's the measure of the success of these things.
I love that. You see, and this is what it's not it has moved on, hasn't it? It's not a popularity contest. It's not about, it's the little things. And they can mean a lot and they can have a lot of impact and a lot of influence, and it just edges you towards building relationships with people that you traditionally wouldn't be able to get anywhere near. I love that.
Absolutely. And I think it's a moving thing. We can see that. It's not like you can have an approach that it's static and it works and it's going to work for the end of the days. I can see I'm evolving. One of the things I'm trying to challenge myself, I haven't yet used a lot of videos. You guys are doing videos, Sarah and team, because you post a lot. And I keep saying to myself, come on, Edyta, go and do this. So that will be my next personal challenge to myself, series of mini videos.
But so this comes to the point, because a lot of people will be saying, you are a busy lady, right? You've got a job, you've got a team, you've just moved countries. I mean, you've got a family. How do you juggle all of this? Because people watching will be like, well, how do you have time? Because that's the biggest thing people say, I just don't have time for this.
Yeah, and it's true. And you know what? I think Sarah, we talked about it. If you let yourself into this thing can probably eat you alive. It's very, very addictive. We know that
it is.
It's very addictive, and you do have to have a way to control it. I think there is a little bit of planning. I do plan. Now, I do work a lot, but I do plan as well. So I will try when I can to plan a little bit what I post for the week. I do like searching, one of the things, again, Sarah, you will know because we spoke about this. I follow a lot of influencers, a lot of brands, so they can inspire me. And if I pick up something interesting on Twitter, on LinkedIn, I do actually try to read what I then post. Yes. So I will store it, I will bookmark it, I will send it to myself, select few things that I think are interesting and try to plan it essentially. I try to also post in the morning. So my personal observation is that the post in the morning, I'm more effective. So I do get more likes and I do get better engagement than if I post in the evening. I don't know if that's the same for everybody. It works
Can
for
I just
me.
ask you, Edyta, is that morning US time? Is it morning UK time? Because a lot of research has suggested that maybe 2 or 3 p.m. In UK time, is the best time to post because it hits the US first thing in the morning. But you're presumably thinking morning European time.
Morning European time, and this is actually a very good question, team, because I see the difference as well between Twitter and LinkedIn. So I think Twitter is a lot more international audience, and actually here you're right. If I tweet in the evening, I literally will see response in the evening. If I tweet at midnight, and sadly it did happen. I will see response in an hour. That's Twitter. I think
I think that's when
LinkedIn.
you got eaten alive by your own social feed.
Yeah. 3 hours in social.
Yes. LinkedIn, then it's your network, right? It's more European because it's I think it's kind of geographically more linked to you. So on LinkedIn, I post more in the morning because I see better response.
Do you use tools for that then to help you out, Edyta? Do you use things like Buffer or Hootsuite, or do you use scheduling tools, advocacy tools? What's your?
I do a little bit of both. So the SAP, a great company as we are, there is a huge enablement program in SAP. Sarah, you know that as well. There are trainings, there are tools, there are processes to enable you to do it, and we do use scheduling platforms. I will use them. Now, what we need to bear in mind, it comes back as well to the quality of what you're posting. These publishing tools that companies have mostly focus on our own content. So they will be content on SAP. I do my best to be neutral and bring my own perspective. So I will also post directly from if I find an article directly to achieve that balance of perspective, purely SAP led versus my own perspective. So I essentially do mixing.
Fantastic. And we have a question from the audience. So from Keith Lewis from Zurich Insurance. So hello, Keith.
Keith. You're right. Well, he can't talk back, can he?
Shout out to Keith.
I need to remember this.
So when you're talking about internally, Edyta, what metrics do you use? You mentioned a like comment from these key people is better than volume of likes. So how do you measure that across SAP?
So of course, across SAP, we have corporate measures. So these are, I think here we have to distinguish between employee advocacy, right? What I measure through my own little LinkedIn, and of course what there, of course you will see the number of likes, etc. As a brand, I think we measure what other brands are measure, and we have as well tools for that. So of course the reach, the viewability, the likes, and then it kind of goes through the entire funnel. I think we do look as well into the quality of the content. So we will depending on video are very we know they are very strong performance. So we will look at the viewability rates of the videos as well, whether somebody has just started or finished. So I think we have to distinguish here between what we measure, how we measure as a company, which is a very robust set of KPIs. I think very standard across the different organizations, and then what I see myself as a Edyta, Malesza-Malatrat measures, what I measure. That's what I would say.
Brilliant. I've got to ask now, Edyta, about your team, okay? Because I know in the UK, and how do you inspire others to do the same thing? Because it can be an uphill struggle. We might have people here who have teams, and it's like, how do I inspire other people to do this? I know it works, and but people who expect I do this and then get that, there very often is not the direct correlation. So how do you help people understand that this is a process? It happens over time.
How it works. I think luckily in SAP, because there is such a strong ethic and culture around social media, honestly speaking, it's not a hard job. And you have to just think about our entire SAP board on social media. So what I'm trying to say, the role models are already there for people to see that. The SAP board is on that. Our CMO, Alicia, is very, very, very active. She's got a huge group of followers on Twitter and on LinkedIn. My boss, Kerstin, as well, who is based in Germany, and myself. So I think my team here in CEE, actually across many countries, 17 countries in Central and Eastern Europe, and previously in UK, the role models are already there. Then, of course, there are things like training. The one thing we've observed, and Sarah, we talked about it when we were deploying the training in UK, you have to be doing it all the time. And I think, again, it's what we're trying right now. We're working, for example, in CEE with another team, commercial team, and we try to relaunch a series of training, this time to target more, for example, partner community or sales. It's an ongoing work. I just think if the role models are there, then it's almost like employees don't have other choice than follow, because that's the example set by the company.
Yeah. Go on, Tim.
Well, I just had I think that's fantastic. It shows how much leadership just drives the cultural change that and the evolution that a lot of companies need to go through. I've got one question, which I thought when we interviewed Rob McCargo at PwC was really fascinating. It's how internally there's a lot of support on social to get people going on social. So what I mean by that is if you see execs like getting lots and lots of engagement, and then you post something that you're very proud of and it gets no likes or comments and no traction, then if you've done that 5 or 6 times, a lot of people are going to lose faith in the process. So we know that it's important to beat the algorithms on LinkedIn and Twitter, and if you get engagement in the first hour, then you can start having content which is seen by other people's networks. So is there a support structure within SAP with people in your team where you kind of like and comment and share what they do to really start growing their appetite and their motivations?
For that, it's a very interesting question, Tim. I haven't thought about it, but I will give you my best answer. I think it's almost like unspoken support system. So it's not like we have agreed this as a company, guys. If we post, we're going to support each other. We just simply do. And I will give you a couple of examples. When I joined this Central Eastern Europe team, I have some really, really amazing sales colleagues in quite senior positions who are just brilliant advocates. The level of creativity, they beat me as a marketing, right? And I am marketing and I should be creative. How they post and what they post just blows my mind. The little videos, the little tricks, it's almost impossible not to engage with that. And what I can see here is that it's a culture of supporting each other, but I think it's also an understanding it's not enough to like each other's posts. You stay within your network. It's how do you get out and secure likes from our customers, from the partners, from our sort of ecosystem. I think that's what's happening. And I think it's absolutely happening, but it's not like we had an internal agreement for it that's what needs to it just simply does. And I think also we tend to, if I see a great an article, sometimes you will laugh. I know I will get a better response putting it on LinkedIn, tagging someone from, say, sales or my team, than sending an email. in the inbox. They will consume it quicker on LinkedIn than on email. So there is also, that kind of approach, almost like sharing. Have a look. This is interesting. Go and check it out. It may be good for your job.
Well, I think that I've got a couple of points on that. So Timo, for example, Timo Elliott did an amazing video on Instagram. Did you see it? In front of the Eiffel Tower, and he used the green lawn as his massive green screen.
Yeah,
I think that might be one of the things you're talking about, Edyta. Yeah, the guy is
the guy is amazing.
He's a legend,
what can I say? Yeah.
And also, though, about the likes from the ecosystem, something you said about marketing, and this is where I think marketers really need to get close to the customer. They really need to. It's not enough just to create content, because that's what we do and that's what we have to do. And you've got to get in the mindset of the customer to really truly understand their issues, so you can be part of the story and stop being so away from the story. So, it's just a couple of observations.
And what I do here is that in UK it was quite easy because it's one country. It's a little bit more difficult here. I still get to know our key brands, but for example in UK I would follow big brands. I would follow our big brands. They didn't have to be our customers, P&G, because I used to work for them, and they are a big consumer company. And for example, what they do with technology is just amazing. Same L'Oreal. If you look what they are doing around the business processes, the supply chain, it's mind-blowing. It just happens. We sell the same thing. So for me, it's an inspiration around how they talk about it, inspiration for my sales colleagues, that I can look what L'Oreal is doing with supply chain. I mean, that's just bloody amazing. So
okay to swear on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I don't think there's a filter, is there?
Yeah. I think it's past
watershed
3:30 UK time. So kids are still in school. It's fine.
That's fine. And so following customers as brands is doing exactly that. And I'm starting as well to do that in Central Eastern Europe. And I get already some responses. Customer, big retailer in Poland, or a big company in Czech Republic. They do engage.
Love it. I've got a question for you, actually, that's come through LinkedIn. So this is quite cool, isn't it? That we can talk to the audience. Well, actually, there's a couple of things. I'm going to ask Justina's question first, because she said about languages. Have you noticed a change now you've got 17 countries under you about the posting on social? Is it better in language? Do you still use English?
I do use English. Do use English. Now, of course, I will also post a little bit in Polish. I can, but I stick with English because that is my main language. Also, I think about my network. My network is English speaking mostly. And also, even in Central and Eastern Europe, even if I look internally at our teams, our main communication language is English. So English is my core language. But again, the great thing is with LinkedIn, you can translate it. So for example, my team is posting a lot in their own languages, which is great. And I will engage with the post because I will use translation, see what they talk about. And it's funny because, for example, the post could be in their own language, and I will make a comment in English, and it works.
Yeah, brilliant.
But also, Edyta, because you've got on your profile trilingual education as well as triathlete. So
yes,
so you could respond in multiple languages.
I could respond in English, French, Polish, and a little bit in Russian.
Oh wow, Edyta, I'm well impressed. I've got something that I know Keith will be interested in if he's still on, actually, which is the internal social network and how you recognize internal activity, and people that become confident internally then start going externally, because we've got quite I don't work there anymore, but SAP's got a very strong internal social culture, hasn't it, with Jam and so I think that helps, doesn't it, with the building the confidence up as an employee, and then maybe moving them to try externally. So
Absolutely. And listen, I think there are the good thing is that there is no judgment. There is no I don't know, oh you know you haven't posted this week, what we going to do about that. There is no that. Um, it's you do whatever you feel comfortable to do, for sure. And I do say that quite openly to my team. We cannot not be present on social media if this is what we are preaching. So I think there has to be almost like a minimal presence. If you don't have your picture or your profile, let's see how we can build it, so at least there is a visual presence of you. And there are people who are more confident and there are people who are less confident, but there is no judgment on it, and I think that is important.
Yeah, I love that. What about, sorry, Tim, I feel like I'm taking over. Did you want to ask a question?
That's fine. Well, I was going to read out the questions on the
Okay.
chat. That it said, during the lockdown, did you notice people engaging or posting at other times that were not usual? I mean, how have you seen, during the pandemic, have you seen colleagues or your own behaviors completely change? Have you been posting a lot? I mean, quite a lot of our viewers are interested in how often they should post on LinkedIn and Twitter and what their routines are. Because some people do it 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at lunch, 15 minutes after work. The really interesting thing that you've said is make sure it doesn't eat you alive. But you've got this always on mindset. It's part of your DNA. Whereas there's lots of people starting out. So be interested to know what kind of routine you build in so that it doesn't take over your life.
I think maybe the key thing is think about a schedule for you that is sustainable. I can see it myself when I'm really, really busy, and boy, I can be. My frequency of posting will go down, right? It will, because there will be bigger priorities that I need to deal with and fix, etc., etc. And then I will try to pick it up the week after, etc., etc. Or I will pay some evenings. I will stay and plan, etc., etc. But fundamentally, like with actually a lot of other things in life, this thing, it's not a sprint. So bear that in mind. You don't want to go completely crazy 1 week, second week, third week, and then disappear for a month, because you have to be sustainable. And I think you have to have an approach that is sustainable for you, that you can carry on through a longer period of time. For me, the social media, it's a longevity game, and we can see that in SSI scores, right? You going off for 1 week and it goes down, boy. So you have to be on it. So I would say, I mean, this works for me. I probably don't go overtly crazy, and again, frequency as well has changed, I've noticed. I think LinkedIn now, you can post a little bit more. I used to post maybe 3 or 4 times a week. I do it now more often, and I think there is a lot more noise. So again, I think it's finding your own balance. But it's sustainability. It's how you can sustain it longer term. That would be my probably key tip, and that's what I'm adhering to.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, actually. It's consistency, isn't it?
Yes.
Picking something up that, going all out and then not keeping it up is worse, actually. It's worse for your audience. It's worse for your brand. It's, it's not a great measure. So I think there's going to be a lot of people that maybe will be worried about saying something wrong on social media, right? They'll be scared and they'll be stopping from starting. So what's your view on that? What would be, how do you manage that? Do you think it through every time you put a post together? It's like, I can't say that.
Yeah.
Or what's your advice?
I think this is, but I can see this as this could be something quite challenging. And again, I think it's a balance. It's a balance of being a little bit brave and putting yourself up there and minimizing the risks. And I think the minimizing the risks will come from, you have to prepare. you have to do a little bit of background work. And remember, I talked at the beginning about my narratives that I'm trying to pursue. So I think you do need to do a little bit of that work of what are the key things I love, I want to post about. If I represent a company, what are the things that are important for my company? Because that's what it is. You are a brand for your brand.
Yeah.
So what are the things that are important for your company? And I think if you prepare, then you minimize the the risks. And again, there are trainings that help you to be measured. LinkedIn is a very professional environment.
Mm.
It's normal. You don't go to work and you don't swear. Or you know what I mean. So I
Yeah.
think there are the logic you would use to
Even though
behave
you just
in.
did swear on LinkedIn,
I know,
Edyta.
just a
You know,
little bit,
just,
Wow, it's
just to
not
add a
you.
but
little bit.
I think it's not going to affect your career. I think this
I
is
hope
good for your
so.
personal branding.
Thank you. I feel
Yeah,
reassured. I feel
yeah,
reassured. So I think the same rules, that you use in the office, how professional you are, how you communicate on the phone, or
Yeah,
where you send an email. I think these are similar rules for the
they
presence
are.
in social media world. Be professional.
Yeah, it's no
yeah. I think
different,
that's
is
great.
it? It's no different.
I've got a question about your audience breakdown. We asked this to all of our interviewees.
Sure.
So it's obviously difficult to know exactly who represents your audience, but do you have an idea? Because what I love about what you're saying is about the quality, not the quantity. And
Yes.
you've got a direct first degree network of 2,000 people in your audience on LinkedIn
Yeah.
and Twitter.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's just first degree network, so you can
Yeah.
reach millions of people through that
Yeah.
first degree network. Do you have an idea of who that's made up of?
Roughly speaking, I do. So, a lot of people in my network are people I used to work with. So, the Procter and Gamble I've mentioned, I have quite a few people in my network who I used to work with from Procter and Gamble. And the amazing thing is that these amazing people have gone and now they work in other brands. There was a lady I used to work with on a Head and Shoulders brand at the time, and she's now a marketing director in Vodafone.
Wow.
Our former marketing director in Procter and Gamble, I know she's now an independent speaker. Writing and sort of consulting on books. So I have a Procter and Gamble community, and they've gone up there to other brands. Some of them are less active, some of them are more active. I have few people from L'Oreal, from the friendship point of view, and actually some of these people are quite active, so I feel very proud if I've got some likes from L'Oreal. I worked for Cisco, so I have a big community of people from Cisco. I worked with with people both Cisco and SAP. We work with lots of partners, so I have connections with Accenture, with Intel, with Intelligence. Lots. So what I will say as well here is that I do go for quality, and I do receive a lot of invitation from people who I really have no idea who they are. And I
Mhm.
do tend to look at the connections. Sarah, it was the tip you gave us some time ago. We look at the connections, right? Of course, if it's somebody who has worked in the company I worked with, I tend to be okay. But if I don't know that individual at all, a little bit like Facebook, I am a little bit,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Do you
think,
let them in? Mm.
do I let them in? And
Yes.
this is what I do.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah,
Because I find that really
sure.
fascinating. Because
Yeah.
so first of all, if you're in business processing for telecoms and cosmetics, then it sounds like Edyta is your woman. So please add her on LinkedIn. Um,
Thank you, Tim.
but yours has been built organically. There's a lot
Yes.
of talk about when people start, they might be strategic. Like, I want to target this particular role, and then
Mm.
I've got particular target accounts. Whereas you're just living and breathing social, and you've integrated it into your habits, and so it's naturally following you with your career.
Yes.
But I imagine you don't strategically think, right, I need to build up my audience with CTOs or CIOs, or is there any kind of proactive, okay, here's where I need to build my audience, or do you just naturally let it happen and just keep on posting on your topics?
I naturally let it happen. Or, for example, obviously, in the last few months, couple of months, it hasn't happened. But of course, if you engage, if you go to meetings or events, then you will meet new people. And again, it's an organic growth. I think what you described, Tim, I probably would do it if I was working, for example, in sales, and I was, you would need to work on relationship, on building the audience. I think that would look slightly different. Therefore, conclusion here is that probably your strategy to build network also depends on which function you represent within a company and what is the job you're trying to do. I don't have to do it. And as I said, it grows naturally through the relationship business or semi-business that are just happening. Yeah.
But you know what, though, Tim? This is why I reckon it's the long game, right? Because this is where relationships refer you to other relationships. So, and this is why the whole right, I need to get to them. That's what I'm going to do. So some sales would do that. But I think when they then move into a different department and they're suddenly selling something completely different, it all looks a bit awkward. And I think this is where you have to look at your network and what your story is. And then it naturally builds and it naturally, and there's a lot of people out there watching what you're doing, but they might not be engaging. They might not be commenting, but it's brilliant because sometimes I get comments that from people I've not heard from for years. So someone who attended our session yesterday, Tim, at the B2B Ignite conference, who I used to work for at Hitachi. I don't think I've spoken to him for about 15 years. And he sent me a message yesterday and he said, I saw your session. I mean, it's just, it is so wonderful, the power of social networks and how it can put you, it's just having that leap of faith, isn't it? Knowing that just keep going because there's a lot of people out there still watching, even though they're not engaging and I don't see them. But then suddenly one day you'll get an introduction or a referral or it's just brilliant. It's so exciting, I think.
Yeah. And I think, I know we're running out of time. I think it also...
Well, it's infinite on LinkedIn Live. We could go for days.
Let's stay. I'll just order a pizza.
If the audience is here, why don't we just talk and answer questions? I think it's, and maybe that's reassuring for people who are listening, I don't think it's one size fits, all. I think everybody can find their own way, what fits them, depending on what they do in the life and where they are, etc., etc. So I think we have to be careful, people who are listening up there, that, Edyta's approach doesn't have to be your approach. You take what you think will work for you and you tailor and you make it your own. I think that's also the beauty with this approach, that you can make it pretty much your own.
And that's the beauty of this series, because we get to talk to different people in different roles with different responsibilities, and you get to hopefully find the little quirks and tweaks out of all of them. I love talking to you, Edyta.
So what I love about what you've said, Edyta, is the fact that you haven't been asked to do this. Is just naturally something that you built into your routine, and you've got something that works for you. It's consistent. You're looking at quality over quantity. I think you've worked out your rhythm, and you're getting those engagements from the people that really matter to you. So I love that. I love the combination of business and personal, and actually being able to speak on business impact rather than the technical aspects of what SAP do. Make you really relatable to your audience. So so you got that plus market. It sounds like you got your Venn diagram of topics like sorted, like and I think every one of the people that we've interviewed on here has a strategy. They have a focused strategy which works for them. I think that's been the one consistent part to everybody. So thank you very much for coming on our interview series.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Edyta. I could chat with you for hours. Maybe I should call you out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
for anyone listening, please visit Analytica and Tribal Impact's website, our resources section, if you want to see any more interviews, and we will repost this and interact with all the comments. So thank you so much, Edyta.
Cheers.
Thank you. And thank you to our audience as well.
Yeah,
thank you
for
to everyone.
questions.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.